Hello and welcome to a brief video lecture that I've put together for you with my comments and concerns on your intermediate drafts of your multimodal memory assignment. Wanted to cover a few points first over a few slides, and then I wanted to pull up some of your drafts and talk about them. The point is to be constructive in my comments and not overly critical. So, and even if I'm not talking about your particular draft, I think you can gain something from what I say about other people's drafts. So please pay attention to this presentation. And then I'm going to come back and reiterate my concerns at the end. So let's get started. Okay, so for my comments and concerns about your intermediate drafts, first of all, they were supposed to include multimedia at this point. So we're kind of looking at a draft that is more than just text, and we're starting to enter this multimedia phase, and then we're going to work toward a final draft from here. So in terms of your use of multimedia, if you're doing what's called an illustrated essay in our text, which is basically a Word document with pictures and multimedia inserted into it, I asked you to be sure to create a banner in place of a title on the first page, and I showed you how to do that using PowerPoint and reshaping the slide so that it's about 2 inches high, and whatever the width is, you can keep that the same. And then I put some, I formatted the background of the slide, and then you can fade out the opacity of it, make it more transparent if you need to, and then put some text, insert a text box on top of that with your title. And then when you go to save it, instead of saving it as a PowerPoint document, you have the option to save it as an image file, a JPEG, a GIF, or a PNG file. And generally I would say save it as a JPEG document. And then when you go into your Word document at the top, you'll do insert image from file, and then go find that image that you created, your banner, and insert it at the top of your document. Okay. Second bullet item here, make sure your images are big enough. I think that some people were afraid of making them too big, but I think that generally speaking, we want them to complement and supplement your text. So don't make them too small. By the same token, don't make them too big. We don't need to make them gigantic, but I think you'll maybe have someone else take a look at them and decide if you think that they're big enough or they need to be a little bigger. Do use that text wrapping feature that we talked about. I did see some instances where that wasn't used, so make sure you do that. Make sure you're using at least 3 images in the body of the document. Make sure every image has a caption. So that's really easy to do. You right mouse click on the image, and then you'll get a menu that pops up, and one of the options should be insert caption, and then click on that, and then you'll just type in the caption. So it may be short, it just may be, arrival in Belize or something like that, or it may be something, 2 or 3 sentences. So do whatever is appropriate for your image. Okay. And my next bullet item is kind of a general rule of thumb. Avoid mixing photos with clip art. I think maybe there were a couple of instances where I thought it worked okay, but generally speaking, you want to stick to one or the other. And I think photos tend to work better. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. This is one of those rules that's made to be broken, but it is a guideline that you should try to comply with. And then if you're using PowerPoint or Prezi, basically we're looking at different slides in either mode of delivery. And I have a typo here. It should say consider making use of subheadings. So So sometimes, kind of like we're looking at here on this slide where it says comments and concerns at the top, sometimes you can kind of, instead of just plopping a paragraph on there by itself, sometimes it might help to have somewhat of a subheading that kind of explains what this particular slide is about. Okay, so moving on, kind of looking at the beginning of your document. Titles are very important, so work on it. Do not just put my multimodal memory at the top. The title should work on your audience to help to pull them into your document. So yes, I'm going to read your document all the way through, but think about your audience as people who may not read your document all the way through. So how are you going to make an impression on them and pull them into your document? Intros are also important for pulling your reader in to your document. So we want to figure out a way to grab your reader's interest. And so some of these are things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. The first one I have here is avoid starting your essay with the word it. It is kind of a placeholder. It's a pronoun, and basically the thing that it's taking the place of winds up coming later in the sentence. So we probably need to rework that sentence to get rid of the word it at the beginning. And my second bullet item under this section, don't start with the date. I did notice a few people doing this. For some reason, that just kind of cements the experience in their mind, but it really means almost nothing to the reader. So, you could probably introduce it sometime later, but it's not the most effective way of starting your essay. Okay, I think a bit more important here, avoid starting too far back. I noticed in several instances that it seems like people were just starting too general, too broad, and it doesn't really pull the reader in. So I'm saying start closer to the action. And as far as that first paragraph that kind of contextualizes things, sometimes it works better as the second or third paragraph, as kind of now we've got the reader in to the essay, and then we're going to back up and kind of contextualize things for them before we move ahead. So, okay, so I say start closer to the action. Consider making your intro paragraph your second paragraph as background or context. So this is a frequent thing that people do with that second paragraph. It's a background or a bridge paragraph, and it kind of explains things that you couldn't put into the intro. So, okay, and then also in terms of finding something that's going to start in the middle of things and grab the reader and pull them in, I looked at a lot of essays and I thought, I was a third of the way into the essay, halfway into the essay, 2/3 of the way into the essay, just reading some of those sentences in the body of your essay, and I thought, why not start here? This is a very gripping sentence. It really, grabs the reader and pulls them in, and so I'm saying read through your essay, look at each sentence, and think, what if I made this the first sentence in the essay? Would that really help to pull my reader in? So, yes, it might lead to a pretty wholesale revision of your essay, but it might be the best thing in the long run. So we want to, even in this, this day and age of the internet and constant distractions and multitasking, we want to make sure to grab the reader and pull them in. So, and then my last bullet item on this slide is consider starting with dialogue. So that puts you as the writer immediately into a situation. It puts your reader immediately into the situation, and so can be highly effective. Okay, moving on. In your body paragraphs, avoid making every paragraph the same length. It just kind of creates a monotony in your essay, and things start to feel kind of heavy, especially if they're about half page each for each paragraph. And so paragraphing is a little bit of an art, and as I say in the second bullet item, paragraph variety is as important as sentence variety. Paragraph variety helps to vary your pacing in your essay. It keeps the reader interested. Short paragraphs can be very effective. And of course, also in the body, be sure to include some dialogue. Okay, moving on. In the conclusion, this is the reflection, the significance part of your essay. This is the highly abstract language. We're making sense out of things, making meaning, deriving meaning from this experience. So, as I say, it's the hardest part of your essay to write. I'm asking you to plan several different writing sessions to work on just this section. Should be more than just a single paragraph. If you've got a single paragraph, I consider that, a first attempt at the conclusion, but you're going to come back and make it 2 or 3, 4 paragraphs. It should be in your own words, not just something that you've heard someone else say to you. Those things tend to be truisms and even cliches. So put it in your own words. And then, as I say at the end here, this is the takeaway for your reader. This is the act of transference. This is something that they can take and apply to their own lives. So we want to make it worthwhile for them. And by that point, they've made an investment in your essay and they want the payoff. And also, by that point, you've made a huge investment in your essay. So we want to make the conclusion worthy of that as well. Okay. Okay, so those are my comments on your drafts overall, and let's take a look at some examples and see some instances of what I'm talking about. Okay, in this particular essay, we need to work on the title, just as multimodal draft. Also, this introduction starts with the word it. We need to change that. And we see an image here, and we need a caption on it. Also, I would put the image either to the left or to the right, and then wrap text around it. Okay, looking further down in this essay, we have another image here, kind of a placeholder image, but I think it's effective. And I would either add a caption or figure out some way to make it kind of a background for a paragraph. Okay, and then we have kind of another placeholder image here, and so add a caption or think about how you could make it maybe a watermark on this page or something that fits into the background. Also at the end we have a conclusion that's just a single paragraph, and I think we need much more development on that. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular essay, we need a title and we need a banner at the top. So the title will be part of the banner. And I would break up some of these longer paragraphs that we see here. We have an image, we need a caption on that, and some other images. This might be too small of an image, so I'd consider making it bigger. And even this image, maybe make it a little bigger. And with these images at the end, I'd probably figure out a way to align them better so that they're like the top of each image is aligned, or work them into the text rather than putting them after all the text. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular essay, we need a banner at the top. And that first paragraph is pretty big, so I'd look at breaking that up. And as we go further down, we need to use text wrapping with an image like this. We need a photo caption with it. These images need captions, and they need to be have some text wrapping around them. And the way they're placed here, stacked on top of each other like this, they're kind of interrupting the text. So we need to, one of the reasons to use the text wrapping is to make them a part of the document rather than interrupting the flow of the text. And this image at the end, I understand, using an image at the end um, uh, probably needs a caption as well. This might be a good image to use with a banner at the beginning of the document. So, and looking up here a little bit further, I think basically we've got a pretty good conclusion on here. I would just say return to it and work on it and make it as good as possible. Let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular essay, I'm kind of doing an arm's length view of it to look at some of the layout of it. And I think I see, other than this, maybe the second paragraph being a really big paragraph, I see a lot of variety in paragraph length, and so I think that's good. The use of the image is good. It could probably be a little bit bigger. And moving further down, again, we've got good paragraph variety, good use of images. I think this image could be bigger, and overall, I think we're off to a really good, we're on the right track with this particular essay. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular example, the writer is using Prezi, and I think they do a pretty good job of it. Maybe my concern at this point is that a lot of the paragraphs seem to be about the same length, and so we need some paragraph variety, and also we need some images in this document. So the writer does make good use of some subheadings. Let's just quickly move through it. And I like the use of a different text on this. And it's well constructed as a Prezi, but visually it probably needs a little bit more. And but I think the writer is moving along very well with this. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular example, the writer is also using Prezi and kind of using a road motif theme on this presentation. And so this kind of looks like a road sign. And as we move on, now we see the entire journey, and we see the end in the distance. And so maybe in some of these instances the text is not as easy to read, and so you could put kind of a semi-transparent box behind it so we can still see the image, but also read the text a bit better. Or you can work with the text itself, make it a different color or something. So I think overall things look good. We have kind of a small image here, and maybe make it bigger. And again, kind of a small image. Okay, and overall, I think with this particular essay, maybe some more development needed. We basically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs, and so overall development, I think, needs some work. But in terms of multimedia, I think the writer is proceeding very well with this. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular example, I also wanted to do kind of a arm's length view of it to get kind of a sense of layout and design here. So we do see some big, heavy paragraphs here, and so they probably need to be broken up. I think the title could use some work, and maybe the entry point. Choosing a college was one of the biggest decisions of my life. You know, maybe there's another way to enter into this. The images also seem small, so I think they could be bigger. And looking through this, again, we see some images that are kind of small in places, and the conclusion is basically one paragraph, and I think that probably needs some development as well. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, with this particular example, rather than present the presentation, I kind of want to look at it in this somewhat of an editing mode where we can see the slide sorter on the left and then each slide. And I think this is coming along really well. I like the use of the background image and then the text over the top. I think that works really well as we look at these different slides. A good mixture and a good balance of text and images. Maybe in a few places we could insert some subheadings basically on these, and nice images that are being used. Again, a good balance of text and image. Same thing here. Same thing here. We have text on top of the image. I think it works well. Here, I think everything works pretty well. And moving further down, looks good. Good balance of image and text. Good use of an image as a background with the text on top. And certainly multimodal things going on here. Here we do have a little bit of clip art, but I think it works fine. Here we're at the conclusion, and make sure that this conclusion is adequately developed over several paragraphs. So, and possibly some use of subheadings throughout. Okay, overall, I think this is coming along really well. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, so here we have another PowerPoint presentation, basically. The writer has saved it as a PDF document, and so I'm going to look at it in my PDF viewer. And we do have kind of a lot of clip art going on here. And if we could add in more photographs, I think that would make this a lot better. So there's the second slide, looks very good. Background, more background. Last season, varsity. And so we have these, kind of subheadings going on here. My focus, awards, new award. Okay, some clip art here. If we could put in some images, would be better, I think. And coming down to the conclusion, nice pictures here, and maybe that was all that was available, but they are kind of small, so I'd make them bigger and try to incorporate more images throughout. So, okay, so let's take a look at another example. Okay, in this particular example, I think the writer has done an excellent job, particularly with the difficult topic, writing about the death of a friend's mother, and definitely making an excellent use of the mode of delivery here. Not only is it multimodal in terms of Prezi, but this particular template with the basically the waveform of like a heartbeat, an EKG, or something like that, worked exceptionally well for this particular document. So I think I'm not going to go through it slide by slide and blow by blow. There was a point in here where the writer talks about the different possibilities, whether it's stroke or overdose or heart attack and aneurysm, a combination of all of these things, and just those little, we're not even looking at paragraphs here, just real quick hit bursts of text worked remarkably well in this particular essay. So I think the writer had a good sense of everything that she was trying to do here, and I think we're just down to kind of some polishing and tightening of this, and maybe working on the conclusion or something. But overall, the writer is making excellent progress here. So, okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, here we have another Prezi presentation, and the writer is talking about moving to the USA, and so I think has chosen a particularly appropriate template for this. And I think overall, it looks like it's coming along pretty well. Maybe some more overall development throughout, and maybe some paragraph variety throughout, and working on the conclusion as well. So, but I think the writer is on the right track. Okay, let me take a look at another example. Okay, in this example, the writer has created a illustrated essay, and so we have a Word document with images put in, and I would say some of these images probably could be bigger, and we probably need some variety in terms of paragraph length, and we need to work on the title. We need captions for these images, and we can see what the thumbnails over here on the left, kind of some of the page layout and design. Quickly scroll through this, and I like the way the subject of the photo is looking in to the document here, and overall, I think a good intermediate draft, and hopefully the writer will also apply some of the overall tips that we talked about to make this an even better final draft. So let me take a look at another example. Okay, so here the writer has created an illustrated essay. We do have the banner at the top, looks great, and possibly, work on the introduction some, work on some paragraph variety, and working in some dialogue and captions for these photos, and text wrapping where you can, although I think maybe some of these photos work best in the size that they are. Here we have a paragraph that runs longer than a page, so probably needs to be broken up in the interest of paragraph cohesion, unity, and focus. And another somewhat long paragraph, and we want the conclusion to be more than just one paragraph. So I think this is still in development, but those are my comments on your intermediate drafts. If I didn't talk about your particular draft, probably did not have any multimedia going on at this point. So take some of the things that I've said about other people's drafts and apply it to your own. So let me reiterate my points with my slides. Okay, so now that we've looked at some of your drafts, let me come back and reiterate my major points that I wanted to get across. In terms of multimedia, make sure you've got that banner for an illustrated essay. Make sure your images are big enough. Make sure you use at least 3 images in the body of the document. Make sure every image has a caption. As a general rule, avoid mixing photos with clip art. If you're using PowerPoint or Prezi, consider making use of subheadings. Sorry for the typo there. And In terms of the beginning of your document, titles are very important, so work on that. For your intro, avoid starting your essay with the word it. Don't start with a date either. You might think it's critically important, but to most readers it isn't. Avoid starting too far back. Start closer to the action. As I said here, read through your essay, look at each sentence, see if you think it might make a better starting point for your essay. Consider starting with dialogue. It puts you as the writer into that situation, puts your reader immediately into that situation. I guess another thing I might add here is your introduction doesn't need to be just one paragraph. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 paragraphs to create your introduction. So we saw that in some of our example essays. Okay. In the body of the document, avoid making paragraphs the same length. It's monotonous, and paragraph variety is important. It helps with the pacing in your essay. Short paragraphs can be effective. Be sure to include dialogue in the body of your essay. At the end of your essay, this is the hardest part of your essay to write. It's a highly abstract language. We have to grapple with things. So plan several different writing sessions. Should be more than just a single paragraph. Avoid cliches and truisms, things that you've heard other people say to you. Try to put it in your own words. This is the big takeaway for your reader. It's the act of transference, so make it worthwhile for them. Okay, so those are my thoughts on your intermediate drafts, and good luck working toward a final draft. Thank you very much.